Hey, everybody. Welcome to another podcast. Mike Claiborne here, along with the great Hall of Fame broadcaster, Bob Ramsey and Rammer. We got a lot to cover, man. There's so much going on with regard to college basketball, season winding down. But before we get into what's about to happen, let's talk a little bit about what did happen in senior night for the Billikens. Obviously, the first time we've ever encountered one like that. I had a chance to listen to it. A very moving evening, certainly. And you've seen countless senior nights, but this one just seemed like it had a different feel to it.
Well, there were a couple of levels there that some layers to kind of peel away. Jordan Goodwin and like right behind him, but Jordan Goodwin and Hasan French were the first two players that Travis recruited at St. Louis. And so he got here and worked them for a whole year before it was time for their selection, their signing day. And with Goodwin being a local guy, and as a high school senior, he was at tons of games, and it was that relationship built early and built in a very strong fashion. And with that bond, the success came, and it was the emotion between Travis and those two young men was real. It was real. It was legitimate. It was palpable. As soon as Travis started talking about him, he broke down a little bit, and those two young men were so thankful to him and the fans, and it was really a special time. Certainly helped that the Billikens won the game.
Yeah, no doubt. And you know those two guys better than me. They seem like they've been great citizens and great representatives of the university and what college basketball should be all about.
And off the court. Yeah, they're graduating on time, and their diligence, perseverance, understanding that you have to make sacrifices to win and to be the best you can be. And they embraced all of those things. French is more of a quiet leader. Goodwin leads by example, one, but verbally too. He's a verbal guy, and he's a guy that'll talk to the team not only after wins but after tough losses. But he also, and I noticed this from his very first fall at St. Louis U, and I'll be honest, he's probably learned it from Javon Bess, former Billiken guard.
Yeah.
Be the first one in the gym and the last one to leave, and make sure you're using your time, really going about it in a professional manner and using your time to the best advantage to make yourself better.
All right, let's talk a little bit about what's coming up. Billikens, I guess I could say they're on the fence as far as the tournament, but they've got business at hand before we can start talking about the selection committee and all that kind of stuff. They got some business at hand this weekend in the Atlantic 10 tournament, which is a little bit different than what we've been accustomed to. You talked about it being in two venues in Virginia compared to being at the Barclays Center in New Jersey or New York over the last few years. But when you look at the bracket setup, it's a pretty good one, a very interesting one. And I'm not one that believes that, we don't want to play these guys. Well, you got to beat a good team in order to win this thing anyway.
No doubt.
But the sooner you beat them, the better off you are. But in this setup, with a team that's kind of been up and down, this is kind of, I don't want to say ideal, but it's favorable for them as far as the matchup, especially the first round.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx it, but I think it probably broke down about as well as it could for the Billikens. I think that's fair to say. And we can be honest, we don't have to dance around things like you might on a game broadcast. But let's face it, Dayton has SLU's number. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And so they're on the other side of the bracket. And then you look around a couple of other tough teams like VCU. VCU might be the best team in the league. They're on the other side of the bracket. So you're going to have to face somebody good if you're fortunate to get to the conference championship on Selection Sunday. But if you can avoid those teams that just give you nightmares until the last day, it should work in your favor. But you know how it is. You still got to go play. Tomorrow at noon Central, the Billikens will play St. Joe's. All of a sudden, they're the hottest team in the league. They were in last place a couple weeks ago. Now they're only just barely out of it, but they're knocking teams off now.
Yeah.
It's because they beat Richmond that the Billikens got the double bye in the tournament. Then they win their first game, and move on to play the Billikens. And so it's a team that's red hot, St. Joe's, that loves to play spoiler. They have the kid Daly who fed him 30 last year, and is a kid who he kind of looks like he's the lead frat boy. You know, I think it's fair to say he's not doesn't have a chiseled physique, but you better not sleep on him. He'll drop 30 on you in a heartbeat. He understands the game. He knows how to play. So tomorrow will be really interesting matchup. Remember when they played at St. Joe's last year, it was he and Javante Perkins going back and forth, up and down the court scoring. It was a very exciting match.
You know, with very few fans being in any of these buildings this year, it's amazing the impact it's had on the game with respect to home court advantage and just the whole how players draw from the fans' energy. I wonder what it's going to be like in the tournament. Now, granted, all these teams have played in basically empty gyms, but now in this setup, I wonder what it's going to be like, what that atmosphere is going to be like, and how much pressure do players put on themselves to get off early. And St. Louis U would be in that category where they know they don't want to give St. Joe's any sort of reason to feel like they can stay with them.
You know, here's the other funny thing about it. In St. Louis, we're really used to the Missouri Valley Conference tournament where fans come out. I won't say many. Most of the conference tournaments around the country, they draw flies until maybe the semis and the championship game. The early rounds, they draw flies.
Yeah. And well, I think you can go to the NCAA tournament. You know, those pod situations and those places, that first round, that upper deck is empty.
So how much difference will it be now? Probably virtually no fans. Shouldn't say virtually. We use that differently these days. Nearly no fans will be there in these Richmond games. So it will be different. It'll be like playing early rounds when the Atlantic 10 used to play in Atlantic City. And you were in that big barn where they would hold the Miss America pageant, and there was nobody there. And so conference tournaments, it's a whole nother deal. But is it that different now from what you saw in the regular season where you only had 400 fans, 800 fans, whatever? Nobody will be able to use that as an excuse, in my view.
No, I agree with you. Hey, as they go into the tournament, what do you like about the Billikens? And aside from free throw shooting, what concerns you?
Well, I was really concerned because for the last 4 or 5 games, the free throw shooting had really had a precipitous drop in shooting percentage. And I said, it was funny. I was kind of like, I kind of threw my wish list out on our KMOX broadcast. And I said, we got to get some free throw shooting. And then as the game started, I said, need something from Hasan French. Well, the Billikens, I think, missed only 2 free throws. French had a dynamic night. But you're right. The free throw thing can't come and go. You don't survive playing badly at this time of year. Not very often anyway. I think one of the keys that I'm looking for is, you and I talked about it over the phone, but one of the reasons I liked the Billikens so much this year was their balance on offense, because I thought it was going to be a constant of Perkins and Jimerson keeping the defense honest by hitting threes consistently. Gibson Jimerson not only hadn't hit a three, he hasn't taken a shot in 2 full games.
I heard you say that the other night, and I kind of turned and looked at my phone. I was listening to it via my phone. I was like, what? A shot? This is what he was here for.
They got to figure that out because it's too good of a weapon. Even if he only hits a couple threes at the right moment, I mean, it can be a dagger. But what has happened while Yuri Collins has missed a little bit because of an ankle, and Jacobs, is that we've seen Fred Thatch and Terrence Hargrove Jr. come up with big minutes. And when they're in the lineup, they're a little more athletic, a little more intense. And Terrence Hargrove Jr. is going to be, he's a sophomore now, but he's leading the team in 3-point shooting, which is, we kind of thought of him as just being, how we label guys. He's an athlete.
Right. We don't know what he can do well, but we know he looks the part, and we'll figure it out later.
Terrence Hargrove Jr. is athletic.
Yeah.
I mean, dynamically athletic, but he's a hell of a basketball player. He's really worked hard. So, but with he and Fred Thatch assuming more minutes, that balance and the depth is still there.
This has been such a hard year to judge any team, COVID-stricken or not, which is why rankings and you can take all that stuff and throw it out of the window as far as I'm concerned. I think you have to really look at teams and watch them, which brings me to Joe Lunardi, who has done a phenomenal job in placing teams in the tournament. But I think this would be a year he's going to have to figure out how to hit a curveball, because we just don't know, Bob. I mean, we just don't know what these teams can do, who is recovered from COVID. And that's the next level that I think we're running across in the industry. You may have it, but you may not be the same guy after you've had it. So it's really an eyes-on thing on how they're going to actually select these teams. And I just hope they just don't go with the reliables because, Duke's in it every year. Why not put them? No, maybe they're horseshit this year. Okay. And it happens to all of us. And I hope that the selection committee can just peel back the curtains and just say, let's find good teams that are playing well right now. And maybe that's St. Louis U. I don't know. I mean, obviously we'll know tomorrow, or we'll know on Friday how good they plan on being with the first game. But I think the selection process is either going to be very difficult, or they're just going to give it a wash and just pick out the names that they're familiar with and the colors that they like people do in the tournament pool.
You hope they don't do that. They developed the quad system, which I think is really arbitrary. I understand why they did it. I understand how it works, but I think the system's too arbitrary. So I get a really good bump if I beat a team that's 30th, but if they're a 31st team, I don't get the same. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an arbitrary delineation. And they've used the RPI and that sort of thing. But I agree with you. I think this year more than any other, the eye test. So you hope the people that are on the committee watch a lot of games and not just in their league. That's what you got to hope for. And that if Bernadette McGlade, the commissioner of the Atlantic 10, is in the room and says, look at this game, and this game, top clubs in our league have accomplished a great deal and are really playing well right now. They were out for a month with COVID or, whatever the circumstances may be. And I hope the committee members don't play politics with it and listen to each other and try and have the best field they can have.
You're spot on. And the one thing I think I would take into account here for the teams that were stricken by COVID, and I'll even include St. Louis U on this, they went out of their way to try and upgrade their schedule anyway before COVID hit. And then they didn't sit back and take 2 or 3 weeks off. They were finding games whenever they could plug in a gap. When Evansville dodged them, okay, we'll go find somebody else. And I commend them on trying to still continue to upgrade the schedule and make it competitive, because it was going to come down to a day on a Sunday where that might come into play more than it would have in the past. And I'm hoping that the selection committee would appreciate the vigor that St. Louis U displayed in trying to maintain a COVID-stricken situation, but also continue to upgrade the schedule and find anybody to play anywhere.
Yeah, and I wish I had it in front of me, the original schedule, the one that was out in September. But the Billikens lost virtually all of November, including a dynamic tournament at Thanksgiving that was absolutely loaded. And now, were you going to win it? Were you going to lose every game? Were you going to compete? Obviously, they were going to compete. They were playing well. They showed that with that LSU win. But those opportunities for mid-majors don't come along very often. And so when you get an opportunity to play highly regarded basketball teams, you got to make hay.
Yeah.
And then those opportunities are gone. It makes it really tough. It makes it really tough.
I commend St. Louis U for going to good conferences to find non-conference games.
Yeah.
You mentioned LSU, North Carolina State,
Right.
two very comparable conferences that have reputation and status. And I hope that more universities try and reach out and play in those other conferences. Now, ACC, well, what did we have the game by playing you guys? Well, you know what? You're not that damn good. Okay. So, and I've always felt that when you start having your non-conference schedule, you should try and find conferences comparable to yours and find a team that you can match up with, and maybe you do a home and home. Then you can try and find a team in the Big Ten or the ACC that may be in that second tier of teams that you might want to do a home and home. At least you're going to find recognizable teams that A, your fans will be appreciative of, and B, I think the selection committee would certainly give you credit for doing that compared to playing who knows state.
And to support your point, the Billikens, the Atlantic 10 and the Mountain West had a challenge.
That's right. Yeah.
I think it'll pick up again next year. We were supposed to play San Diego State, who's the best team in that league.
Yeah.
That would have been fantastic. And the Billikens did go to Minnesota, lost, played okay. Played pretty good.
Played well enough. They played well enough to win that game.
Yeah. So the effort is there, and hopefully you get to see that continuing as you move into next season. And those things, you'd like to think that the effort and the intent is also valued.
Well, we're going to see what happens starting on Friday. Billikens in action, St. Joe's in the A10 tournament, and let's see where things go from here. You know what? I don't like to look too far down the road. You should worry about the team you're going to play and let everybody else worry about their own business. So we'll do this again soon because the next time you and I will be talking, we'll be talking about what seed the Billikens have in the NCAA tournament. That
would be pretty darn cool.
All right. One other thing before we get out of here. Ballpark National. It's not too late to start booking events there.
Oh, no. Jump on now. We've got 4 sold-out tournaments, and people are coming on board, and we'd love to have everybody here. The fields are AstroTurf, will never rain out, and
so there'll be no tarp pulling down there, huh?
No tarps.
Damn. All right. Well, you know what? Maybe that'll be an alternate site for the Cardinals. You never know. I think I lost you, but in any event, he's Rammer. I'm Claibs. We appreciate everybody watching, and go Billikens.